Let me get comfortable here.
Hey, there you go. We're live a little bit early today. Today is, what's the date? I have to put my glasses on because I can't see. It's the 8th of June, 2016, Friday, the 8th of June. And so far we have Flat Earth Unity Josh from America and Paul on the plane from America. Hello.
From America, live and loud.
Oh, cool. I thought you might be Canadian or something after that.
No, born and raised.
Hey. So which side? East Coast, West Coast?
West Coast. I'm in the state of Washington, so up in the northwest corner of the country. About 150, 160 miles from the ocean.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that you do a myriad of things, but hang on, because I told you my voice doesn't match. I've written something down. Well, I thought, right, podcasts, Lies of NASA. They spread. I like the fact that the one I saw today was this flag. It was a special flag. No, they just bought it from the shop. It was $5, and you did the one you were showing at the twos and the pros. There was lies. They were saying different things. And then the BBC program came, and then about the lies. And then the next video, faking space. Then the next video, faking space. Then the next video, faking space. Oh, yeah! And the next video, faking space. And then a bit further down, Apollo, moon hoax, Apollo whom it went on like that. So big love, because I have the same thing with NASA.
Yeah, I've spent, that's a majority, I guess, of the body of work that I've created is definitely pointing out some things that we found about everyone's favorite space agency. They make it easy. It just takes a little bit of research and kind of digging in. And if you just peel back the layers of the onion, as we say, a little bit, you can start to see these anomalies in whatever you're talking about, whether it's the images that they send us from, supposed satellites, whether it's these photos, from all of the Apollo alleged landings on the moon, doing a little bit of digging and comparing, and you start finding these inconsistencies. And my Faking Space series, I believe, we just finished season 2. And ended up being another 12 videos or so. So we've got about 23, 24 videos now, which, 80, 90% are directly showing, or kind of exposing some of these things from NASA.
Yes, I saw. I must admit that NASA's not one of my. You've got Bling Bling. Do you know Bling Bling, BS of the ISS? I was hoping she was going to join us, but she hasn't looked at her messages. She's obviously out. But she's got a channel where she just goes for NASA, and she watches it with a jewelry magnifying glass. And the thing is, you've got to slow it down, watch it again, slow it down, watch it again.
Yeah, she's done a good job with the ISS. I have not really done anything with that. She's doing fine. She doesn't need any help there.
Oh, but when you actually think about what they're saying, it's all just rubbish.
Well, it is, and that's where just the more you look, the more you watch, the more you think, and you start being able to see these inconsistencies. They say this and then they say that, and those don't reconcile, and they show you this and they show you that, and those don't reconcile. And now the evidence is piling up, and that's what I've committed to doing for in my opinion, what I'm doing for the flat Earth awakening or movement, whatever you want to call it. I've looked at NASA as a stumbling block for a lot of people, because that's what it was for me. That was my first thought when somebody told me that the Earth was flat. My first thought was, what about all these NASA pictures? And so that's the first hurdle I came to. And I think if we can get people over that, then, they're like, okay, well, yeah, I can see where they're coming from on that. So then they dig a little bit deeper. So I've spent as much time as I could on exposing NASA, because I think that can help win over some more people to get them to go on that truth journey, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. It would be great. I also find stuff myself. You may not be able to. Bling Bling said you couldn't necessarily find it from the really, really like a few weeks ago or whatever, but you have to go to slightly older footage. But I've got 2 astronauts, and it's Bowen's first trip out, and one of them's paused. One's moving around, and the other one's paused. And then I made this video which said basically they've got to go that far to fake it and take you, make you believe in a fake reality is to take your freedom away.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, the mind control, and there's so much propagation of these of pseudoscience and trickery and smoke and mirrors and harnesses and all of that, just to obviously the purpose is to reinforce the heliocentric lie, the heliocentric narrative, and continue to keep that in front of the masses, in front of the face of all of the good citizens of the earth. And so but I just can't get over it, that how quickly, when I decided to really dig in, peel back the layers of the onion, how quickly you can find this stuff like you found.
Yeah, like for instance, it's the biggest store cupboard that there ever could be, and I wouldn't want to be on it because if that's high tech, I'm sorry, I don't want to go on it. Those wires, they frighten me. They're just everywhere. And then, like they were outside and they're going, "Come on, turn around, have a picture taken." And as he turns around, he puts his hand on it. It's material. And then you look around, and you think it's covered in stickers that are just starting to peel off at the edges. Like what? And then there's other like the underwater thing, when they're walking, you just know that they're like, they haven't taken the sound out and they're underwater.
Yeah, it very much would be like what you would hear underwater. And the reason I made that connection was it's probably 8 or 9 years ago. I got my first underwater camera. It's just something you have in the pool, swimming in the backyard or down at the community swimming pool, and it's a little camera with a little waterproof case. And so went out there with friends and my children, and went out there, and it was fun to have the camera underwater and have them jump in and swim around, and the kid, they were watching it later, having a great time. But when I saw what you're talking about, I was like, that sounds just like what my underwater camera picks up. It's the same sound effects.
You can't really mistake it, can you?
No,
can I just say that I don't think Vinny was actually on the panel when we came on, so hi Vinny, if he's there. He's writing stuff in the chat room.
Yes, I'm here. I'm busy in the chat. Hello.
Hey, Vinny.
Hey, how you doing?
Didn't want to leave you out there.
Fine.
I can't get over this bit about, even they show stars coming out of the earth. They show the moon as a disc. You do a bit more because you put hours and hours and hours of it out, don't you? You're streaming today, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know how long it's been now. About 2 weeks ago, I decided that I had an old server, and I was like, well, why can't I do the same thing? Because in my opinion, the more flat Earth content that's out there, that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the more that's available, the better. And giving people a place to come and chat and visit and argue and debate, as long as it's done respectfully, obviously, then that's what I wanted to do. So I had an old server, and so I kind of did a refresh on it and went and downloaded my favorite videos from other content creators, picked out some of my favorite videos that I've produced, and running them on a loop. It's about 20 to, I don't know, it's somewhere between 20 and 24 hours of video now, total time. And I have that just playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on my channel now. And
thank you for doing that. Vinny does the similar sort of thing, don't you, Vinny?
Yeah. Yep.
Who have you been showing?
I'm sorry?
Who have you been showing on your channel?
Russian vids.
Yeah, it just does a continual stream with Russian vids.
Yeah, it was 49 days streaming.
Wow. I got a ways to go. I've probably done it for, I've stopped it a few times because I upload new content, or sometimes I just need to reboot the server. So
yeah,
usually goes a couple of days or so before. In fact, I went 5 days, I think, is the last one. And I think I found that YouTube actually ended that live stream and started a new one for me automatically because it was sitting there in my content creator page on YouTube as processing. It had been like 100 and something hours. So I think there's a limit to doing that, and so it resets. Yes. But I've only been doing it for about I think about 14 days or so now.
Well, all I know that if you stream longer than 14 hours, it will not record to your channel. For you, it will still be there, but it will not process.
Okay. So if you stream, it sits there processing forever. So I just remove it.
Yes, but I think you're using OBS, or are you using a different stream?
OBS, yeah. The platform is OBS.
Well,
yeah.
Sometimes the stream starts new because OBS has a connection loss for a couple of seconds, or then sometimes it starts new, a new stream. Sometimes.
Got it. Well, the nice thing is I was able to go. I was, like I mentioned to you, Karen, I was out of town on business most this week. I just got back late last night, but monitoring it from afar, it seemed to do great. And it was 4 or 5 days without any hiccups. So I'm happy with it was kind of the test, going out of town and not being able to adjust it if necessary. So I'm glad it survived. Me not being here to manage it.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I was gone for 2 weeks and I came back, it was still on.
Can I say something? I got told off by your bot. It said like welcome, but no, basically any icons, that's spam. So tut or your warning.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. When I started this, I wanted to have a little bit of rigor around it because I'm not going to be in the chat all the time, and so yeah, that was some of the defaults that come with that bot. So I need to change those. So it's set up like a couple of characters, and then it times you out for only like 5 seconds, but it's annoying.
But if she would do it 5 times, you will get 10 minutes of timeout.
Yeah, If you 3 strikes and you're
out. But you can lower that. If you go to the settings from the Nightbot, you can lower it.
Yeah, I just haven't had the opportunity, but I will get on that. And my apologies. No, nothing personal, Karen. Nothing personal.
It's all right. I kind of gathered because you're not there. You've let it go, and so you've got to have something over the chat room, haven't you?
Well, yeah, it was meant to. Obviously, it also does a little promo, so I've got some timers on there, so it it advertises my Truth Frequency Radio show. It highlights a couple of my Faking Space playlists, things like that too. And then I obviously wanted to have, some sort of, something that was, if somebody came in and was doing lots of spamming and that sort of thing, that it wouldn't allow it. That was the main thing, obviously.
Yeah, and I think Bling Bling's going to come on for a little bit. And this is her favorite subject, isn't it? NASA. Yes, First one I watched of her as she was going, I want my money back.
Yeah, that's what I always I want my money back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go on.
No, that's all good. I was just going to say, I didn't know if you guys knew. There's a lot of misinformation about the name NASA, where the word NASA comes from. They will tell you it's a Greco-Hebrew word that means to raise up. But there's also a word that's far earlier from the Paleo-Greek lexicon. It's nasha, and it means to greatly deceive.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. The gentleman that I partnered with on the Apollo moon photo analysis, his favorite one is that NASA stands for never a single apology.
Or never a straight answer.
Well, that too. He wanted to kind of come up with his own. He said, there's so many good ones out there using the acronym. So that's his because he claims that they'll never apologize, even when exposed, which hopefully they will be one day. But
if it's any consolation on our research in this group, when we've looked, someone found all these documents from the 70s and they're released. I've got the file somewhere. NASA are using the word flat plane, flat plane, flat plane, flat plane, flat plane. And really, if you find this stuff, it's in your face and still people just can't hear it. No, no, no. I'm sending you the NASA documents say flat plane. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, dearie me.
Yeah, that's called cognitive dissonance, I believe.
You don't realise it was a bit of a shock for us. You know, it's a bit horrible to find out it's not an accident, or basically maybe it was a mistake, or, you know, like just one thing. It's everything. But, you know, appreciate very much, because we also have our subject. We can't all do all of it, can we? I saw Dave Marsh in the chat room. He does photography and moon races. You know, you're doing space. We can only do our bit, really, because it takes hours.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know how many hours I've spent doing this. It's obviously a labor of love, but at the end of the day, it does. You know, creating content is very time consuming, and it takes a lot of attention and focus. I don't have obviously the video editing skills that a lot of people do. I choose to not spend time learning how to make better videos that way, which I probably could, but I'm more interested in just good content as far as the information as best as I could. But there's some other content creators out there on YouTube that have great information, and they combine it with a great, you know, visually stimulating and entertaining presentation too. So that's on my wish list one day, I guess.
So how long? So what happened for you? How long ago was it you? Is it something that's always been with you, or is it sort of like the wake up that you get?
Well, for me, it was, I questioned the moon landings in, you know, probably 15, 20 years ago. I must have seen, it was online. It was, you know, this was kind of when the internet wasn't as big as when it was, you know, 15, 20 years ago, but it was just kind of emerging. And I saw a documentary about the moon landing hoax 15, 20 years ago. And that kind of planted a seed. And so that was always in the back of my mind, I would say. Then when 9/11 came, and I, you know, was looking at both sides of that story, and, you know, that was always the narrative versus the, you know, what the truth-seeking community had found and exposed, and about the buildings and all that. So I think I was kind of ripe for that, but I had never heard the term, you know, flat Earth until October of 2016. And exposed.
Hey, Bling Bling. Can I just stop you 2 seconds there, Paul? Bling Bling, BS of the ISS, is with us. Paul on the plane. Paul on the plane, Bling Bling, BS of the ISS.
Hey guys, how are you?
Excellent. Good to see you.
Hello,
Good to see you too.
Yeah, I thought maybe you'd like to have a few words with Paul.
Yeah, Paula, you're my hero.
Oh, stop. You're mine.
Oh, no, I love the work, all the series that you've done. They're so good. Really enjoy it. Pass it around a lot.
Well,
Such
thank
good
you. I appreciate
to
that.
the fake moon landings.
Yeah, well, you found the insect on the ISS, so we've all got our we've all got our wins when it comes to exposing these liars and frauds.
I know, right? And there's so many people still will say, oh no, that's just a smear, smudge on the glass.
Yeah.
God, even after I redid it with the green filter and went frame by frame and show that it's freaking moving and changing, and you can see the little wings and the antennae, the legs, still a smudge.
Yeah, and then I was
smudge.
just mentioning Scott Henderson, who did all this, you know, the moon photos analysis, and I sent them to you, but just for everybody else, he found you know, in the magazines on Flickr, they've got the photos in sequence, how they were taken. And so he's got one photo, you know, so a lot of times there was 3 or 4 or 10 photos taken, you know, just in sequence without the camera moving much. You can kind of get this frame by frame, if you will. And he's got a picture of a facade, some of the equipment, I think it was, on the moon, and you know, there's nothing on there. And then, you know, a couple of frames later, you can see that there's a bug on there, landed, and then a couple frames later, it's
that.
gone.
That is such a great photo. I have to put it into, I forgot about it. I wish I had added it into when I updated the fly footage, because I had it, and I've just completely, you just mentioned that to me, and I'm like, oh shoot, I have that fly picture. So it must have been a fly. I'm thinking it was a fly. It would have added some more.
There was some obviously flying insect, because it was not there, and then the next picture it's there, and then, you know, the next picture, which was taken a couple seconds later, it's gone. So something landed, walked around a little bit, and took off, is what it appears. In the vacuum of space. So I guess there's vacuum breathing creatures out there.
little spacesuits and little helmets. So
Space
cute.
flies.
Oh, dearie me.
I got to grab my headphones. So just keep talking. I'm going to go and grab my headphones. Let me just mute myself in case my doggies bark. Hold on a second.
Okay, why Bling Bling's gone off to do that? Like back to like when this happened to you then, when you this wake up thing or whatever it was. Can you carry on?
Yeah, sure. So it was, for me, it was October 2016. So the first times I'd ever heard the term in this context, flat Earth, was then. And my first inclination, as probably many of us are, is I scoffed at it. And the first thing I thought of, as I mentioned earlier, was, what about all the pictures from space? How can anybody in this day and age, think that, because we see what we see, these are photographs we're getting from space. So that's where it was. And it didn't think about it again, or didn't do anything about it for a couple of days. But I just remember being a couple of days later that a seed had been planted in my mind, much like the Apollo moon hoax and the 9/11 and all that. So I just went online and started looking, started asking questions, started reviewing other evidence, and started on that path. And that was fall of 2016. And I didn't say too much. I was just gathering information, thinking, reading, looking up. Did that for many, many months through the holiday season. And then we got into the new year, early 2017. I decided to buy a Nikon P900 camera because I wanted to start doing long distance photography and start seeing if I was going to be able to observe what I was seeing a lot of other people do. I had to see it for myself. I wanted to point the camera at the stars and the moon. I wanted to take long distance pictures, find objects that should be hidden by the curvature of the earth. I wanted to do all of those things. And so I did. And that's when I started my channel, because I started posting some of those observations that I was making. And that's where it started for me.
Yeah, and it obviously worked then, having the P900. Yeah,
that was my first tool, for sure, that I kind of invested in to do this. And I think it's an amazing piece of equipment, obviously, because of how much it magnifies. I stay away from the word zoom, because zooming implies that you're seeing farther with the camera. And I think that's a misnomer, if you will, because my understanding is you're not able to, you may think you're seeing far, but what the camera is doing is just like what a microscope or telescope does. It just magnifies what it sees. It's not allowing you to see farther. It's allowing you to see better, a lot better, and a lot clearer. And you can then make out objects and see detail and things like that. So I like to make that distinction, because people think, oh, just because you have this huge telescope that you can see, millions and millions and trillions of light years farther. No, you can't. You're just magnifying that part of the sky better, in my opinion.
Bling Bling's got a P900. Bling Bling.
I'm back.
Yeah, she's back. She's got a P900. Have you watched? There's a bit of an echo, Bling Bling.
I'm getting a lot of. Is anyone else getting a lot of breaking up, or is it just
no?
me?
Maybe just leave and come back, and that should sort it out.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of an echo.
Okay,
I can hear myself.
Let me leave and come back. Hold on.
Just press F5.
It's got to be someone.
Refresh. Shortcut.
While she's rejoining, you also, I saw one today where you had your video that done really nicely for a few months, and then it didn't. It sort of dropped off absolutely to zero, and then you went and uploaded it on another channel because you weren't sure about how they were dealing with your post.
Yeah, it was I did like a 10-minute video on the Mythbusters, which is a show here in the US. I'm not sure if it's seen in Europe or wherever else. It's the Discovery Channel, and it's a show, a couple of guys that are using science to either confirm or deny like popular myths. And so this particular episode, one of the guys got invited to fly in I think it was a U-2 spy plane up to 70,000 feet. And so I just played the video and made comments about how it wasn't reconciling because you had shots out the side of the plane that were showing very prominent curvature of the Earth. In fact, it changed. The size of the Earth changed as the camera moved up and down, which is obviously an indicator of barrel distortion or because of a wide angle lens. But then the other camera that was pointed back or a different angle would show a flat horizon. So I was just pointing those things out. And so I uploaded the video, and this was in end of May 2017. And it did really well. I mean, it rocketed up to like 100 or 200,000 views in the first month. And after 3 months, it was at about 300,000 views. It was doing really well. And then that's what I showed in this video, was that going back and looking at the number of views, it just falls off a cliff. It went down to almost nothing and then stayed there for the rest of the year. So 3 months, 300,000 views. And then the last 9 months, a total of like 16 or 17,000 views. So I decided to re-upload it, same channel. I just re-uploaded it to see if what would happen this time. And I think so far, I checked the other day, it was like 15 or 16,000 views. So who knows? I just wanted to get it back out there because I thought it appeared to me that it was being hidden at some level. It wasn't showing up in suggestions or suggested content or like videos of similar type or whatever. I think there was something going on, because it was just the way the stats showed that this thing, was just kind of dropped off the face of the planet, as they say, right? Just off the edge. Wink, wink.
How annoying though. They're really, well, somebody's messing around with the views, aren't they?
No, they have to be. I don't know how a video does what it did. Just showing the, it showed the views basically by, over the last year. And that thing was just, it went straight real fast. So, a new video sometimes will get, a lot of views quickly, and then it'll kind of calm down and get into kind of there'll be kind of a level stream of views every day, that'll average or whatever. And then maybe it'll start kind of petering off if obviously over time it can kind of go down to zero, but this thing just stopped. It was probably doing, I don't know what it was, 5,000-10,000 views a day or something like that. And then it stopped, just dropped. And then it stayed there for 9 months.
Don't you find it interesting that Mythbusters gets their little private conversation with the astronauts? I did a video about that when they were eating asparagus, and there was a million edits when it was supposed to be a live conversation transmitted back and forth with Mythbusters and Chris Hadfield. I just, where do these people qualify to have their little private conversations? And all it is, of course, is just propaganda, more and more of it, to try to convince people.
I agree. I think it's everything you're going to see on the Discovery Channel, National Geographic Channel, all of that is really going to be mainly focused on, reinforcing the heliocentric model at some level, reinforcing what mainstream science is propagating. That's I think the whole point of it. It's mass media. They're all owned by the same company, the same family. When you do your research, you find out that, ODD put out a great video about, all these different networks, ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, all these mainstream networks here in the United States. They're all saying the same thing. These are supposed to be separate companies, but why? I mean, word for word, the narrative is exactly the same. So
yeah, I saw that. It's funny.
Same text, same everything.
Yeah, the wording was exactly the same. It was remarkable. When you get into these, they call them cable channels here, but these are not network major networks, but they're the cable channels, we call them, or at least I do. But they're all they're all intertwined as well, and so they are that's what they do. The same crew, the Mythbusters crew, they did an episode on debunking the moon landing debunkers. They did a show just to prove that the moon landings were real as they were presented to us. So I lost a lot of respect for them right there, because their arguments were ridiculous, and they didn't touch the real good ones. That people have found. They wouldn't touch those because there's nothing you can say. I'd love to see him come back on the wet flag for Apollo 17. I showed that in all the videos that I was doing just recently in Faking Space Season 2. I did that on every video, and the silence, in my opinion, is deafening because there's no comeback from that.
I agree with you, and it is such compelling evidence against the moon landing. But you know, these Mythbusters, it's such a contrived little event that they have together. If you watch them, they'll be talking to Chris Hadfield and talking about, so how's the food there? And they're both like eating an apple. And then another episode, one of the guys eating a pastrami sandwich, and it's just so set up. It's like they were, set it up all beforehand. Like, okay, we'll be eating food to make Chris Hadfield feel hungry and sad for Earth. And then we'll shoot to the laboratory and show how they put the food together. And I just don't understand how people can't see how bloody contrived it is.
Yeah.
It's not natural. It's just such a production. It's just like any other work of fiction, that you could watch on Netflix as a little series or something.
Absolutely.
Pisses me off thinking that it's our tax dollars that are going towards these things. And it's just more and more events taking place in schools across the world, universities, all of these different places. I don't know, it was kind of funny, like on my most recent video with an experiment that was selected, and then the end, the professor sitting there with the students, and they're like, yeah, it didn't look real to us. I thought that, I'm surprised they didn't cut that part out. Yeah. But, they're very astute in their observation because it obviously wasn't real. I wish I could get a hold of that kid. I did a little bit of searching and I found out the school. I wish I could actually get a hold of that kid and show him my evidence that that little experiment was just done in front of a green screen, and that little ball going around and around wasn't even there. It would be nice to see his reaction to that. But probably still little fanboys.
It's happened to all the children all over the world every single day.
Yes.
And that's what drives me mad as well. Is that, like you said, we're having to pay for these people to lie to the next generation and the next generation and that sort of thing. It's been going on a while, and it's up to us to continue to expose it, in my opinion.
I mean, that's all it is just continual propaganda. Where is there time for everything else that's supposed to be happening on the space station if they're so busy with these propaganda videos? And, it's not just the Americans doing it. I mean, ESA does it for the Europeans. They have their own little production going on. Because I follow all of these different channels, and a lot of people don't realize that it's not just the Americans putting out this footage. It's like, it's everybody. and the Japanese too, making their own propaganda videos.
Can I just very quickly say, sorry, just breaking in there, that Flat Earth Dude has managed to get on. Hello, Flat Earth Dude.
Hello there.
Hello, my darling.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can.
Hear
You're
you.
on with Bling Bling of the BS. Can you in the chat room? You know who's on here. Paul on the plane, Vinny, Josh, and me.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing, Flat Earth Dude?
I'm doing good.
Hey, Flat Earth Dude, how are you? Where are you? You're outside somewhere with a blue sky and no chemtrails.
Yeah, that's CGI.
You're in front of a green screen.
That's just a blue screen.
Oh, that looks nice, though. You could do with one of those. Sorry, Bling Bling. You were saying? Because he's muted.
Whoop. There we go. Now you can hear me.
Oh, he's back now. Hello, my darling.
Well, thanks for having me on. Paul, love your work, man. Vinny, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Very busy, but hey,
That's
it's
good.
evening now, so relaxing. I'm doing good. Thanks.
Hey, Bling Bling. We meet again.
How are you again?
Good, good.
You're like the astronaut.
excuse me, Paul. The last time we were on, like, I was Flat Earth Dude and Bling Bling, Russian vids. I fell asleep. I was a bit worried that I'd been snoring. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. I had stayed up all night.
It was adorable.
Yeah, it was fun.
I would be snoring, so I would be embarrassed if I fell asleep.
Karen was snoring. There. I'm kidding.
I did. What? I heard it, and I woke up and then I just wafted off. I just couldn't help it. I just was lying there listening.
I know, we had such a great time with Russian vids.
Yeah, hours of talk.
That was great.
Sorry. Well,
Anyway, let's get back to busting
yeah,
NASA some more.
Paul on.
It's too easy to bust NASA, so let's keep going.
Yeah, he's got a telescope, by the way. Paul.
Got a couple. Paul's got a few. I've seen. I think you have one right there in your room, there, don't you?
Still getting all this feedback and breaking up. I'm going to log back out and come back in again.
F5.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, come back, Bling Bling. Yeah, so you like using your telescope as well, then? My daughter, no. That's it. Shut her out. Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, you like using your telescope as well.
You know, I bought a telescope and I don't use it as much as I thought because I use the P900 as my telescope. It magnifies and I'm able to get video and pictures a lot easier with it. So I'm not adept at using a telescope by any stretch. So I'm sure Flat Earth Dude, you're much more of an expert, I'm sure, when it comes to telescopes.
I just try. It's a lot of experiment and get it set up. It's nice to have something that tracks the stars at 15 degrees an hour.
Yeah.
And it's, I've got a couple things that do that. I'm able to put up my P900 on top of my telescope and track the moon really good. I do a lot of moon footage. I get a lot of transits. I have a video that's got a really nice Google satellite balloon transit. It's really slow. I don't know. It's like 30 seconds long, 45, which is long for a transit.
Yeah, that's great.
And what it is, I've seen a lot of satellites launched off into from Antarctica, from balloons. I've seen a lot of footage like that. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, I think that's how they're doing it. I think
Yeah.
limited communications and signals and all that is required, to be above us is done with balloons. And the rest of it is all towers and undersea cables. So that's my opinion.
Exactly. Some underground or towers, cell towers.
Yeah. I think there's areas obviously that getting cell towers is difficult because of the terrain and over water, large bodies of water, things like that. So I think that they use balloons for those.
Well, NASA's the #1 purchaser of helium in the world, correct?
Well, they need that for they need it for their balloons, and they need it for potentially they need it for a lot of their rockets and stuff too. So
there you go.
Got to get those things up too. So
that's right.
If you think that they have enough fuel on board to do what they claim to do, then you need to go redo your math, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to go from 0 to, I don't know what escape velocity is these days. Numbers seem to change all the time, but
well, they got to get up to how many times faster than a speeding bullet. I question the materials that they are using that would allow that speed without breaking up and getting too hot, the friction and things like that. But at the end of the day, the amount of fuel necessary is there's an inconsistency there. In fact, just talking to Scott Henderson again about the moon landings last week, he and I were talking about, and those that have rocket scientists people that understand this stuff a lot better than we do, calculating what the amount of fuel would have needed to be able to get that lander onto the moon. And the fuel tanks would have needed to be, probably the size of this room. Like they would need 4 of those, and the whole lander would nearly fit into, not including the legs, but the area that the lander was, the size of it was, not much bigger than this room. So they would have the lander, and then they'd have to have 4 fuel tanks, basically about the size of the lander itself, to be able to do what they say they've done. So that's research other people have done, but that makes sense.
Have you looked at any of those time-lapse photographs, which just show the rocket going up and going down? The rockets go up for so far, and then they come straight down. And people can't see it. I mean, like you say, in a sense, you've got to go and do this research yourself and want to do it. And because there's no point.
If you don't want to, for the people that we end up talking to a lot online that are claiming that we're a bunch of, intellectually challenged people, they don't want to. They don't want to even entertain that. I think a lot of them are worried that if they did dig in, they would start seeing what we're seeing, and that would ruin their science fiction fantasy world they thought they lived in. So yeah, a lot of people it will remain a globe flying through space, because for them it has to be a globe flying through space. That's their mentality. And so there's no point in discussing much with those types of people, because their mind is already made up. One of the first things I do if somebody engages me and want to have a conversation, a debate, whatever you want to call it, my first question to them is typically going to be, do you think you have it all figured out, or do you admit you possibly could have been deceived or wrong in any way? And if they don't admit that is, because that's what I would admit. I admit that I could be wrong. I don't have it all figured out. I admit I've been misled. You're not a flat earther unless you admit you've been misled at some point in time in your life, right? So if the other person that I'm speaking with won't admit that, then what's the point of even having a conversation? Their mind is made up. They're not the type of person that would then, in my opinion, change their views based on new information. And that's what we have all done. Those of us that I think are awakened to this, we understand that new information can, you can change your mind based on new information. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, and we're probably doing a lot more now than we would never have done before. And a lot of it's come through, for me, is just disbelief and wanting to know the truth, or more of the truth. I don't know if we'll ever know the complete truth here. But the bit about rockets, I'm sure that you looked at them. When they go up, they get so hot. The back of it's just glowing red. And then they get to a certain place, and what it is just out of that bit where you can't quite see what's going on. And then they explode, and then a ball comes out, and then that goes off. And then basically they say that's the shuttle going off. It's now reached, it's gone through, it's now in space. And all it's done is blow up.
Then it switches to the cartoon. But then they switch to the cartoons for adults. And then they continue that imagination for you. What they have to put those pictures in your head. It's all about, the optics, what it looks like. So they continue that, and they continue to reinforce that with cartoons. And meanwhile, I think the rocket has just basically soared out of sight. Combination of, maybe there is some thrust and some fuel on board to do some burning, but at the end of the day, it's going out of sight. And from there, your imagination has to take over.
Just shutting my door because my daughter's playing music and being a bit noisy. Carry on.
Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole just did a great rocket video.
Yeah, I saw it on the Soyuz.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I was laughing.
Yeah, what do you think about that? So he zoomed in, for those that haven't seen it. So he zoomed in. There's a big crowd of people. I don't know, like 150 people or something like that are all in these bleachers looking at this rocket launch. And so he zooms in on everybody's phone and camera and all that, and you don't even see anything on the screen. It's like they're all off. It's a black screen.
Yeah, it was all black screen. That's funny.
Yeah, good catch.
I just love the way they hang there, as if they've got a coat hanger in there, and they look so uncomfortable.
Who's that? Sorry.
On the ISS, sorry. We're talking about,
yeah.
you're talking about rockets, aren't you? I'm so sorry. Just that came into my mind. Yeah, those. Oh, she's black.
Bling Bling.
Bling bling.
Earth calling. Bling bling. She's typing something, but we can't hear you, Bling Bling.
She said no sound for me. If you change you can change the settings with the cog here, the gear. Try another microphone or speaker and press F5.
Anyway, I think we're just proving we can't even get it right on this Hangout.
I'm back. Sorry.
Yeah, she's back.
I've got sound. I've got mic. I've got everything now. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, my internet was down. I had to reboot my my router, and then I couldn't get any sound coming out of my headphones. So I don't know. The forces are working against us.
Glad you're back.
Sounds great right now. So let's talk really fast till it, because it's gonna probably go away really fast.
You're so funny.
Yeah. So what were we just talking about then?
We were talking about how uncomfortable the quote unquote astronauts look, hanging on harnesses and wires and having to do what they need to do and continually adjust and move around because
wedgies, getting the wedgies.
Well, it requires a lot of core strength, to do what they do. And so you could tell the ones that don't have the same core strength that the other ones do because they're continually shifting and moving and they have to shift their weight, move their legs up, things like that. So, once you, again, spend the time in looking at this and doing some thinking on your own, and you start seeing that, there's no way they can do this without the smoke and mirrors. And it's just a circus act, in my opinion.
Sure. And I read that Chris Hadfield, before he actually went to space, needed to have some kind of surgery on his intestines. So they were able to do it like microscopically, but you have to wonder how much of that has affected his core strength. And that's why he seems to struggle the most with keeping his legs dangling down. Yeah. Because he's constantly, and if you really watch it, like you say, Paul, you can see the agony in his face. Yeah. You can see that he's hurting. He
sweats a lot more. He gets flushed a lot faster, and he doesn't have. Yeah, you're exactly right. I didn't know that about the surgery. It makes sense. He maybe had the abdominal wall or whatever. He maybe is having some struggles there, but he can't do what some of the other, especially the younger. You find the younger astronauts, they don't have as much trouble. It seems like the older they are, just their age and years, they struggle a little bit more with having to be on those trapeze. Being in that circus.
Actually, I'm just starting a new video, and I'm going to talk all about that because I don't want to give away too much, but there is a certain company that actually NASA had them make something, and this company is famous for doing special effects and floating for like Cirque du Soleil and other huge big organizations. They had a big show in Las Vegas where they were showing how their harnesses work and all the different things that they're capable of doing. And I found it very interesting that they were asked to make something for NASA at the, I think it was at Johnson Space Center, something. Mm-hmm. They didn't say what, but it's on their website. So I'm going to be including all of that information in my video and showing what this company actually can do with these harnesses and how they can green screen them out. So, because a lot of people, Paul, they come at us, it's impossible, they wouldn't be able to, have these harnesses on without them showing, but they certainly can, and they do.
Yeah. And to your point, I can't wait to see the video, but you start adding all this stuff up. That's why it just takes time. It took how many years for you to get to believe in a spinning ball flying through space when you were young, and the deprogramming is going to take a while, but what you're showing there will be another piece of evidence to add to the mountain.
Absolutely.
To say, look, here's what's NASA doing hiring a special effects company.
Exactly.
Why do they need
Why
to
would they need to?
What's the need? What's the need? You know, where's the science? You know, hey, the whole idea, right, is supposed to be that the tax dollars are going to better humanity, you know, explore and do all this stuff. Why hiring a special effects company? What's going on?
I just love to know what they actually built for them, because they didn't say. I'm almost curious to call them. I don't know if they would have a problem telling me what they actually built for NASA or not, but I was quite shocked to see that. I know Jeranism had a website up the other day, and I'd love to know what it was, because I can't remember. And it was showing all of the different money that NASA has paid to these different organizations. So I'd like to be able to look them up on there to see actually what they paid, how much it was.
I think that was Jeranism's show, not this past Monday, but the Monday before.
Yes, it was, Paul.
Yeah, I remember that, and I didn't write it down, and I'm glad I totally forgot about that. Now that would be a key. That would be a great resource. Be interesting to see how long that exists once people start hitting it. You know, kind of like the
yeah, really, right? It'll just go away. But if you can email me that link, Paul,
I'll also go back and find it. I'll see if I can find it.
If you can, that would be great, because I'd like to include that in my video footage. But yeah, just really interesting. But yeah, getting back to the astronauts, you know, hanging in their harnesses. What I found really funny when Scott Tingle, now he just left. He's just nicely back on Earth this past week, and now, of course, the new crew just landed on today at 1 o'clock this afternoon. But when Scott Tingle first showed up, for the first couple of events that he did, he was not able to let go of the microphone. He held on to that thing the entire time. In fact, at one point, it seemed like they were faking that the microphone was broken. So he used the one that they have that's corded, and it's like blue and then has a white cord. But at one last second, he went to see if it was working, the cordless, and it was. Yet they still, like, he just put it down and used the corded one. So, because the cord looks like that's floating, right? But yeah, for the first two complete events, and that's all they love to do, right? Is always have something, you know, floating in front of them and twirling. Yet, why wouldn't you let go of a microphone if it's just simply on a space station that's, you know, falling around the Earth, and it's going to be floating like everything else? What would be so difficult to let go of it? But he had a grip, like the kung fu grip on that thing. And then finally, he did another event with a couple of other astronauts, and he just looked so proud of himself when he finally let go of the microphone to pass it to somebody. You know, when you're really watching them, I almost sense like, oh, you feel really happy with yourself that you're able to finally achieve this level of training, you know, of trickery. But I'm actually right now, and I've been trying to advertise, I'm looking to hire someone who knows how to read lips. And I've contacted some professional companies, and they're way, way too expensive. But I have a lot of footage with the astronauts talking amongst each other with the microphones off, and I want to know what they're saying to each other. I'm sure there's probably something quite incriminating involved in that. There's so much of it.
Yeah, but you were like faking it today.
You know, it's just, there's one with Peggy, and she winks. This was the first time that Jack did an event, and he did it with Peggy. And I swear she's saying, like, just follow my lead. And then there's the big left eye wink, which was not at the camera. It was to the side of the camera, so you didn't get to see it really well. But she gave him the big knowing wink. And I thought, I just got to know what they're saying to each other. So if anyone knows any lip readers, I reached out to the deaf communities on Facebook. I haven't heard anything back. I'm waiting to be accepted on one group. It's like, doesn't anybody want to make any money here? Like, I'm willing to pay to, you know, analyze footage. It's just short little clips of 1 or 2 sentences being said to each other. I think it'd be great for a deaf person that knows how to lip read to do that.
Hi, Bling Bling. Can I just say that Astral's joined us? Hi, Astral.
Hi, Astral.
All right, everybody. Hello. I am
Hello.
listening.
Paul, Astral comes on all my hangouts really. He's part of Sun and Moon. Well, they're all part of Sun and Moon actually. But Astral and Patricia, she's gone away for the weekend, but she comes on. They come on all the time, and these people come on a lot of the time.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's great. It's great. I'm just that. Imagine what they could do with the money. They're lying to us.
Well, I just can imagine what I could do with my own money that I wouldn't have to be paying in those taxes towards a fake organization. You know, never mind what they could do with it. You know, I just want to keep it in my own bank account. You know, we wouldn't have to pay so much taxes if we didn't have NASA and doing fake space, right?
Yeah, and I remember the percentage. The argument is like, oh, it's such a small percentage of our tax dollars go there, or whatever. That's not the point, right?
I don't care. I'll buy a Starbucks coffee.
Yeah,
I don't care.
The point is that what the money is being used for, and that's to propagate lies, and that's infuriating. I mean, I don't care who you are. Once you understand and see what's going on, and you are awakened to this, if it doesn't make you mad, then there's something else wrong with you, in my opinion. I mean, it's mad.
Yeah, the people that go, what difference does it make to my life? Like,
I hate that one.
Yeah, just because they haven't really thought about it, because they really haven't accepted what we're telling them. They haven't done any of the research. I think once you stick your head down the rabbit hole and you start undoing all of the indoctrination, and you start to realize that we are right, the earth is flat and fixed, and then you start to think about everything else that has been going on, then it does get you mad. But you can't get mad until you've accepted the truth of the reality that we actually do live in. So I think that's why they say, what difference does it make to my life? It's because they have not looked at it, they haven't researched it, and they haven't accepted it. Because I don't know any flat earthers that are not angry at being duped. Do you know any? I don't know any. Everyone that I know that's flat earth is pretty upset over it.
But you know what, though? Listen, as people, right, we need to know who we are. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. You're never going to understand flat earth or the truth or anything, because if you don't know who you are, you're not going to believe anything anyway. The other thing is, Crow said it on one of the hangouts we had with him, that basically what they do is they keep you busy with bills, busy working, busy this, busy worry, busy fear, busy wars, busy anything. And then basically people don't have enough time to think.
That's the biggest one.
Well, it's a distraction.
That's the biggest one. Ever since I realized, what's going on, I don't have it all figured out, but seeing what I've seen, I now notice all of that busyness. I see it in friends and family, and just in everyday life, how they keep the masses thinking about other things that don't matter. In my opinion, they don't matter.
And also they've changed the laws, like, generally, haven't they? Like, I think Josh tells us, or people from America tell us, they can't even feed the homeless anymore. That's against the law. And they've done laws here where they stuck it in, like, when immigrants come over, so they're not made into slaves, except nothing is to do with the people. It's not about their education or welfare or housing or, anything like that. It's to do with the fact that basically you can't help each other. So someone can get me to do something for them, and then I can call the police up and say they asked me to do favors. What's that?
Yeah, and it's the division. It's excuse me. It's I agree with that, and it's also what you see on the mainstream news and media, and all of that is meant to divide humanity and to put pit groups against each other, because that's more distraction. When you think that's the news, that's the problem with the world, is that all these groups are of people, whether it's political or religious or socioeconomic, whatever that is, it's always one group against the other, saying this, saying that, and that's not the problem. But they're really good at getting people to worry and think and stress out over things that aren't the problem, so that they can continue doing what they need to do to maintain control and further the narrative on heliocentrism and all of the things that they're doing to keep us enslaved, if you will.
Yeah, on a bad note, it's like living in an open air prison, really. We haven't really got rights, and everybody thinks they've got democracy. They don't.
Yep, exactly.
And they convince us that there's more conflict between ourselves than there actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
People aren't
one of the biggest
fighting like
problems.
they say, are they? For a start, we're not fighting like that. People don't. Generally, people don't want the wars.
No.
Even the people aren't really fighting because it's all lies.
I agree. That's they get us to think, or the whole idea is to get us to think that that fellow man is the problem when it isn't. You know, it's my neighbor, or it's this group or that group. That's the problem with the world, and they're telling us to act like that, and that's what people do. They model what they. Hey, if it's on TV, then it must be real, and so they've gotten the masses to really think that if CNN covers it, Fox News covers it, then it must be real. It must be happening, and it must be happening.
Can I just add?
Tell it.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
They have an agenda, don't they? And obviously they want to steer the population in a certain direction because of course it's for someone's gain. Generally, it's follow the money, and where that pile of money leads to, that's the person who wants some sort of influence happening, and they steer it. It's a little game for them, And when
Absolutely.
it's matters of millions, if not billions of dollars, then they'll do anything and everything in their power to make sure that little game happens exactly how they want it to happen.
The powers that should not be are the number one goal they have. Excuse me. The number one goal they have is to maintain their power, maintain the control. That's it. They'll do anything and everything to maintain that without stirring up too much, doing it too quickly. I feel like we're all, or humanity, or the general population is like a frog in a pot of water. That's that old cliche or that analogy, slowly being turned up. The heat is slowly being turned up, and eventually it's too late. You're in the pot, it's boiling, and you can't get out. So that's what's slowly, I think, happening, and that's all by design.
Yeah, and one thing I will say though, that everybody blames somebody else, right? It made us as a society that don't take responsibility for ourselves. But what it is really, it's not the governments that make the communities, it's the people. We have to do it. Don't blame anybody else. We have to do it. We have to come together somehow, and we have to do this.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. Which we're hopefully doing slowly on Sun and Moon, Family United.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really nice. I've never had a hangout with you before, and you're a really nice person. We can feel each other on the hangouts. It's really nice to meet you and know that, actually, because some people just put videos out, but actually this hangout's great.
It's really great to meet the people that, you share the same common denominator with. But I find that it feels like Flat Earth got smaller when I started to get to know so many content creators. I don't know if you feel that way, but all of a sudden I feel like we're smaller than we were because now I know so many people.
We all go through the same things. We all, as they say, put our pants on one leg at a time, and we're all just real people, that have awakened, obviously, to the lies and the deception, and we've decided to not just sit quietly and let it pass us by and affect our loved ones. We're all doing what we can, whether that's creating content or activism or financially supporting or just coming on a hangout in the chat and being a part of the community. Whatever you can do, it's all important. It's all important.
Do you get a lot of hate? Sorry, Karen, go ahead.
Well, very quickly, this is the best way we can do it right now because we don't all live in the same country.
Yeah.
That's what
Paul, do you get a lot of haters? Do you get a lot of hate comments?
Oh yeah. I like to sit back sometimes because they're so ridiculous. There's the ones that just come in and just say you're an absolute buffoon, and you don't understand anything. You flunked kindergarten. You live in your mom's basement. All that stuff. That's it. That's their only comment. And to be honest, I completely transparent. I just remove those because I don't want to see them. I don't want my subscribers to see them. Not that because I'm trying to censor anybody, but they're just there to cause trouble. They're not adding anything to the conversation. Now, if you have something that's legitimate and you're doing it in a respectful way, then you'll find that those comments are all over my videos.
Sure.
People always say, "Oh, you just remove comments or whatever." Well, yeah, I do. I admit that. That's because if they're insulting and they are not, I don't want to say professional, but they're just to cause problems, in my opinion, then they're gone. If I see it, obviously
Paul, I agree with you, and that's what I do.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm not gonna go
I
far.
have so
And I have
many.
some horrible, nasty, stupid comment on there.
Yeah, they're just being troublemakers.
Yeah.
They have no interest in doing anything other than just hurling insults from their keyboard, and I don't want to see it, and I don't want anybody else to have to look at it either. So if I see them, and I can't go out through everything, but if I see them, I just remove them. And
Do you have do you have the filters set up so they're held for review when someone uses? I do too. I have over 2,000 comments sitting there right now that are held for review, and and sadly, because a lot
It's
of
a popular
people.
Bling Bling.
A lot of people will make a comment, and even though it could be positive, they've still used some language that I've filtered out. So I have to go through those. So anyone in the chat that is one of my subscribers, please don't use any foul language when you write your comment. So then I don't have to go into that held for review section and see like the hordes of horrible comments, like just terrible.
It tells you the reason. A lot of times, and that's what it says. It says right above the comment, the reason it's held for review, it says bad words. And that's what the algorithm
But
thinks.
a lot of people will write bad words, but they're using it against NASA or one of the other space agencies. So, I mean, I will approve those comments, but often, of course, the bad words are directed towards us. And I don't mind really that as much as, well, some of the words are terrible, but when it starts involving really personal, like my family, my sons, even though they're adults, it gets a bit much. Like that, you've got to have a real serious mental illness if you actually want to take my life because you don't agree with what I'm doing. And I get quite a few death threats, so it's like, you really have to have something wrong with you if you actually want to kill me because you don't agree with me.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to put yourself out there at any level, whether that's on YouTube or Twitter or, face to face, if you put yourself out there, you better expect you're going to get there's people out there that's how they respond to the world when something doesn't agree with them. They get either violent, not physical violence, but mentally that's their reaction to it. And so we have to understand that's going to happen. And I'm not saying it's right, and I'm obviously not saying I excuse it, but I'm saying that's to be expected. And we do what we can to limit that because it's not helpful to the conversation at all. So
no, it's just how far can some of these people go? Like, are they going to try to track us down where we live? To take it that far because they're just so outrageous. I mean, I can tell any crazies out there that if you try that, and you show up where I live, you figure out where I am, you will be greeted with my Glock in your face, and I don't have a problem pulling the trigger because I'm fully trained. My husband's in law enforcement. I'm very good shot, and so are every person that lives in my house. So don't try it. I live in a state here in Florida where we are allowed to defend our lives. There's not going to be any questions asked for me. It's the stand your ground law. So it's taken really seriously. I mean, I don't want to do that, but if someone showed up, I would. What's that, Karen?
I'm really sorry that you had to say that.
Yeah, but it gets a bit much. Like, I had a whole slurry of them in this last little while of some really horrible death threats. So don't try it because you'll be the loser. I mean, I know the layout of my property and my house. You don't. I have the advantage, and I also have 2 huge dogs that notice every little thing around here. So they're my first line of defense. Not that I'd ever put them in harm's way, but you wouldn't get in here. It wouldn't happen. And luckily, I live behind electric gates on my property. It would be pretty tough, but still, you just never know. Just
note to self: Never show up at Bling Bling's house. Unannounced. Call ahead.
Paul already said
Schedule an appointment.
they're gonna
I'm just going to defend my life, you know. I'm going to defend my life, and that's the way it is. My husband went, you know, law enforcement for over 30 years. He was in the military for even longer. He just recently retired. I guess, was that in 2011 he retired? Security police, he was for all that time. I mean, this is a very strong pro-gun family, very strong, defend yourself. And I know some martial arts too. So it's like, I'm not a person to kind of want to go after. Like,
I'm glad you're on my team, Bling Bling. Dang.
Yeah. I'm not going to be a victim ever again, because I was as a child, and you know, now that would never happen again. So yeah, it's kind of an awful thing to bring up, but I know all of us go through this. We all get death threats.
They never said it was going to be easy, though, did they?
Sure.
You need to change your name to Supergirl.
You know, my name is because I do jewelry, like I do bling. That's why people will wonder, why do you call yourself that? It's because I had a company called, no, actually, I'm not going to say it because, no, never mind. But I did custom belt buckles. And so I use Swarovski crystals, which are very blingy. And that's, you know, where the name comes from. So it's been my nickname. And when I started my channel, it was just natural for me to just use that.
Plus,
and
you got Margaret.
Plus I have Margaret. Yes. Well, she's actually on vacation. She'll be coming home on Monday. She's been gone for almost a month. So it's been a little bit boring around here without her. She's my best friend. She lives with my family. I met her, I guess, almost 9 years ago. She was practically homeless. I was boarding my horse. She was cleaning stalls. Nobody would talk to her. They looked at her like she was beneath them. I didn't like that. I befriended her and realized that she was the most amazing person I'd ever met in my entire life. And I found out that she was living in a trailer with no air conditioning in South Florida. So I asked my family, what would you think if she moved in with us? Because we had the extra bedroom. So it was in agreement, and she's been with us ever since. For 8 years, she's been living with us. So she's my best friend soulmate. I just never found a nicer person ever. So yeah, it's kind of cool to have her. Now I really notice her now that she's not here. It's like, wow, this is really boring around here without her. So it's been great. I've been on quite a few hangouts here with you guys, because I've been just so lonely without someone around during the day to talk to.
Yeah.
You can talk to us, Bling Bling.
Yes, which is fantastic.
I think you should change your name. I think I saw it in chat. Boom Boom instead of Boom Boom.
Yeah, with my
Boom
Glock.
Boom BSS or BS of the ISS. There you go. That's your backup channel now, in case you get censored.
Really? Well, I hope I don't ever have to do a boom boom on anybody. I would much prefer not to. You know, just because you wouldn't want to live with that, but whatever. The way the world is, you know, it's a pretty dangerous place.
Can be.
Luckily,
On a positive note, Paul.
yes.
Is that things are changing, though, that more people are waking up, that more people are coming to your channel, that, you know, whatever. Have you noticed that it's picking up? I mean, it's only a few years ago, really. I mean, they turned us into this board in the 1960s, so we've got quite a few years to undo here. 2 years in, 3 years in.
Yeah, and just looking at the time, I've got just a couple minutes left. I'm going to have to take off. I've got another engagement. But to answer your question, I go back and forth on it. It's definitely growing. I don't know at what rate it is. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the channels, the amount of content is becoming more and more, and it's increasing drastically. The number of subscribers and comments, that is continually going up. So the mass media has helped us because they talk about it. And even though it's done tongue in cheek a lot of times and to poke fun, at the end of the day, it's planting seeds. And I'm a big believer in just the fact that the words flat earth together plant seeds, because that's what happened to me. I just heard about it and decided to go. It was pure curiosity. How can anybody believe that? That's why I started looking into it. So, you know, the more that we can do that, and the more it gets covered, and you know, I think more people are going to wake up. I do think it's growing. I'd like to say that it's, you know, getting into they call it like raging when you're talking about, a product in the marketplace, and, it goes through its, the initial testing and all of that, and then it's released to the public and all this, and then it gets to a point where it's adopted heavily, like a cell phone or whatever, and then it gets to a point where it rages and it just goes up really fast. And I don't think we've reached that. It's a point of critical mass you have to reach, and then it can't be stopped. And I don't think it can, but I think if we just keep doing what we're doing, I'm optimistic that, we will continue to awaken more people. And that's all we can do, is we can kind of get them to look at something a little bit differently, consider this, consider that, and then they have to go on their own journey. As they say, you can't, what do they say? You lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. We can't make him drink from the flat earth cup, but we can lead him to that point, and get him to hopefully question and just ask questions and question what they've been taught. And if they do that, anybody seriously does that, then I think they're going to start seeing what we've all seen. And you got to put the ego down. That's tough for a lot of people to admit that you might have been fooled. And if you're willing to do that, you look at the evidence, do your own experiments, you're going to come to probably the same conclusion that millions of people are doing now. And that is, we don't live on a, spinning, orbiting space pair flying at 4 different directions and all of that sort of thing. So anyway, thanks for having me. I really had a good time, and we'll have to do this again for sure.
Come back, Paul. Come back, Paul. Yeah, it's been really nice meeting you. Really nice guy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And as I like to tell everybody, keep it flat, all right?
Nice talking to you,
You
Paul.
soon.
All right, we'll see you guys soon. Have a great weekend.
You too,
Bye,
darling.
darling.
Cheers.
Bye, darling.
Cheers.
Hey, Bling Bling. We're not going to stay on too long right now because...
Oh, you're actually going to go to sleep early for once?
No, we are on with a Flat Earth dude later on, because he's going to that thing with Patricia Steer and that experiment. And
that's
so
right.
we're back on. He's going to stream it through Sun and Moon, through his...
Oh, cool. Is that experiment today?
Yeah.
It is today. Wow, Patricia.
Yeah, she was catching her plane earlier on.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that experiment. So how much time do we have left?
Well, if you want to talk about something for a few minutes, but we're going to come back on. The time now for me is 9:30. So basically, we're going to come back on probably about 12:30, maybe nearer 1 o'clock to link up with the Flat Earth dude.
You may need a nap.
No, it's okay. It's Saturday tomorrow, isn't it?
That's true. That is true.
What were you saying, Vinny?
I'm echoing, I see. So, no, I just wanted to say, I didn't hear you because I had to walk away, but you're going to start a live stream after this one again?
Yeah, what it is that Flat Earth Dude is going to the meet and experiment. Patricia Steer, Rob Skiba, I think Mark Sargent's going. They're all going, and he's going. And then basically we just stream it through his camera. Like we just put him as, I'll present him, and we'll watch where he's going, what he's looking at, who he's talking to.
Oh,
that's
cool.
Gonna be cool. It is very cool.
Bling Bling, come back.
I'm gonna.
I will.
I'm gonna.
I'll come back.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. Say, Vinny.
All I'm gonna do is make space cake live, and that's not a joke. I'm really gonna make Dutch space cake in about 2 hours. But
what is it that then?
Oh yeah, maybe I'll start earlier so I can go back here. Hello, Effie Max. Yes. What time did you start? Did you say?
Well, he's stepped away for a bit right now, Flat Earth Dude. But he was telling me about 1 o'clock. He'll be there. So at 1 a.m. So that's 4 hours time.
Ah, great! I've got time enough for that. Nice. Cool. I'll be back.
Yeah, us laters.
Yeah, I'll come back. Definitely.
Yeah, it's only a few hours ahead for you, isn't it? Well, it's 4 hours ahead, but sorry, yeah, 4 hours ahead. 9:30, 10:30, that's 3.5 hours. So about 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
we get back on and yeah.
So
Hook back up with
7:30 my time then? 4:35. Yeah, 3 hours.
about that. Hopefully Astral will be there. Obviously Flat Earth Dude. Maybe all the same people just come back on. It was really nice meeting Paul. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah, Paul's great. It's a great person to have in our flat Earth world.
Nice guy.
My son is giving me crap. I made a little comment on Facebook, and I got spanked for 3 days. I can't log into my Facebook.
Oh.
Well, I just made a comment on a video. It was a terrible video showing a police officer getting attacked by all these people with like water guns, and it was humiliating towards her. And then she started running after someone and she slipped in the mud, and they were all laughing and chanting something, and I guess they didn't like my comment, and yeah, I got banned for 3 days. It's like, wow, can't believe over that little comment that I got banned for 3 days. You know, I didn't mean it in any racist way. It just what they reminded me of the way they were acting. I said that they were acting like a bunch of chimpanzees in a zoo. It was the way they were all at once laughing at the same pitch and tone, and you know, it just reminded me. It had nothing to do with race. It was the behavior. It could have been any person doing it, any group of people, but they took it like it was some racist thing. So I got blocked. My son was like, "How could you say that?" I'm like, I didn't think of it like that at the time when I said it, or I wouldn't have said it. You know, it was okay to, you know, do that to the police officer though, and show that video on Facebook. It's like those things are okay, and I found that really offensive. I guess because of my husband being in law enforcement, I don't like to see police officers getting disrespected that way.
Well, it's everybody disrespecting one way or another. I did say that bit about not taking responsibility for ourselves. I know it doesn't mean everybody and everything, but like generally, because otherwise, yeah, we're never going to move on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, we can end and then come back later, so you can have a little rest. You can, you know, rest your vocal cords and maybe lie down and have a little nap, or have something to eat or something. Have some free time for a change.
Yeah, make sure you set your alarm. Otherwise, you will sleep maybe till tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Well, shall we just say goodbye off air? But we'll say goodbye on air.
All right. We'll say goodbye off air.
Yeah.
I just got here.
I want to say hello then to you. Hello and goodbye. I'm just kidding.
All right, Vinny. Goodbye. Adios.
Yeah, but you slept in, didn't you, Astral? Astral, you slept in, didn't you?
Oh, I was coughing.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Yeah. It's too dusty outside.
Anyway, thank you to everybody in the chat room. Astral, thank you for Astral popping on. Thank you to Vinny. Thank you to Flat Earth Josh, who's around. Thank you to Flat Earth Dude, who had to step away. Thank you to Vinny, and thank you to Paul on the plane. I really enjoyed that. And we will be back in about 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
We will. I had to mute my dogs are barking.
Anyway, it's goodbye from us and see you later. Thank you, everybody. Mwah.